Hello everybody, welcome to Amazing You. I am your host. My name is Dr. Rani Thanacoody. I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist using rapid transformational therapy method. I am a life and relationship coach, past life regression practitioner, breathwork coach, astrologer, tarot reader, life force compassion practitioner, and chakra practitioner. So today I have the great pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Yasmine Saad from the United States. Dr. Yasmine Saad is a highly acclaimed New York psychologist, twice international best-selling author, and Forbes recognized peak performance coach for impact-driven leaders alongside Tony Robbins, known as the wise psychologist. She has pioneered the inner message approach, helping individuals to decode their thoughts and emotions and break free from negative patterns and unlock their true potential. And as the founder of the acclaimed Madison Park Psychological Services, Dr. Saad leads a team of the top 5% of psychologists providing tailored care to multicultural clients. She's a sought-after international speaker, sharing stages with self-development leaders like Deepak Chopra, Dr. Shefali, Les Brown, Dr. Dennis Waitley, Brian Tracy, Bob Proctor, Dr. Joe Vitale, and many others. Dr. Saad's expertise has been featured in 100+ media outlets, including ABC, CBS, NBC, BBC, Fox, Forbes, USA Today, and more, solidifying her reputation as a leading authority in psychology and personal development. Welcome, Dr. Yasmine, to Amazing You.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rani, for this incredible bio and incredible, introduction. And I'm so excited to be on your podcast.
Thank you so much for taking your time today to talk to the audience. I am very honored and grateful to have you today. So, Dr. Yasmine, would you tell us briefly about your story?
Sure. So I'm Dr. Yasmine Saad. As you know, Yasmine is the jasmine flower, and Saad comes from Arabic. And actually in Arabic, it means happiness, prosperity. So I say I'm the flower that brings happiness, prosperity.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So I'm Lebanese originally. I grew up in Paris, France for about 20 years, and I've been in New York for more than 20 years. And I'm often seen in Europe, sometime in Lebanon. So I say I'm an international psychologist.
Wow, that is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that to us. And can you tell us, Dr. Yasmine, what has inspired you to become a psychologist and to be in the field of personal development?
Yes. So I followed my passion. So, and I decided when I was 16, so at a very early age, at a pivotal moment in my life, there was an ignite moment where I was sitting in a math exam. I was ready to go business school 2 years later because I was very good in math. And I was thinking, this is going to be the end of me if I go to business school. This is not my passion. I'm good with math, but really not my passion. So I looked within, and as you notice, I speak with a melodious tone of voice. And so at school, people will come to me. They love me soothing them, me calming, and I love to do that. And so I decided I'm going to become a psychologist. And I came home and told my parents that, and it went very well with my mother, who believed in following your passion, what you love. It didn't go as well with my father,
Right.
who was about well-being, listening to people who are not well, and my financial being. Because in France, psychology is not a financially lucrative, profession. At least at the time, it was not.
Yes. And then how did you, even though your father wasn't really happy, how did you move forward in following your passion?
So I wrote it in the Ignite, the Hunger in You, which is basically, I say, give great voice to who you are in light of those around you, not in spite. So I listened to his concern. I thought they're valid concern. How will I listen to people and not get so affected by the negative? How will I provide for myself? And I took what was given to me. My father was always pushed me to be the best at what I do better and better. So I just replied to him, okay, I'll just be the best at it. Okay. And so that's what I did. I gave great voice to who I am in light of him. And then that carried me. When I started psychology, I had a mission of not being impacted by negative, and I had a mission of being financially resourceful. So I developed my inner message approach to therapy, and I developed a way of listening to patients that honor that. But I always, before I developed my approach, I always had a way of listening to patients that was more about listening to the talent within, listening to who they are and what is being expressed through what is happening, rather than the imbalances, the pathology, and all of that.
Thank you, Dr. Yasmine. I think that is beautiful that at that very young age, you started to listen to your heart, to your intuition. Because, at that age, a lot of children at that age, they like to listen to their parents. And very often the parents, they want their children to follow their dreams instead of allowing the children to follow their own dreams. I think you had that from that age, that inner power to stand up for yourself and to follow your dreams. And it's beautiful to see. You are such an example to so many other women who would be listening, whether men as well, because we all can listen to our intuition and follow our dreams. And you are such a great role model, Dr. Yasmine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I like to say that you just have to be a bridge, not stand powerfully against or for, but just a bridge. The idea for me was to bridge what I wanted, what my father wanted it, because I believe what he wanted was good for me and what I wanted was good for me. And so that's how it happened. It was not a standing up to my parents, but it was a standing with my parents.
Yes. Yes, that's great. Yes. And you said that in your practice, you work at really listening to your patients. And that is really a great thing, because in the medical field, we know that doctors, GP, general practitioners, they do not have the time. And I think what you do is taking the time to listen to your patients. And can you tell us more about that approach that you developed?
Yes. And so just to clarify for people not to be mistaken, I no longer or very seldomly do one-on-ones. So it's more that I train psychologists. But in the past, when I used to listen to patients, my approach is to really listen to what's behind, really listen to the core. And what I saw a lot of time is that people want to get rid of the negative so fast, so soon, that they want either action steps or they want to replace with positive. They want the end result so fast. But nobody takes the time to understand, well, why am I having this particular thought? Why this particular emotion? And a lot of people think the mind is the enemy. I believe you were born with a body and a mind created for you to serve you. And so my philosophy is the mind is a problem solver. It translates deep imbalances within you, outside of you, into problems. And it shows up through the form of negative thoughts. And it shows up through form of negative thoughts because the negative is how you're going to listen. Like if it was positive, you would not be paying attention. So I try to see what is the mind translating into that thought. And usually it's a discrepancy between where you are and where you want to be. Usually it is something turned into something very negative of your dream and your aspiration. So for example, I like to say, like, if you think you're not good enough, how does that carry wisdom for you? I always say you can only think something if somewhere you're not convinced about the opposite. So, for example, if I sit in front of you right now and you tell me I'm ugly and I think I'm pretty,
right,
it's not going to enter, it's not going to have any power over me. I'm not going to contemplate what I'm going to be thinking about. Where my mind is going to go is, why did Dr. Rani said this? Like, maybe she's mean, maybe she's jealous, or maybe she needs glasses, but not going to be about me. But if I have doubt and you tell me that, then I'll start, maybe she's right. Maybe my nose, maybe my mouth. And if I really think I'm ugly and you tell me I'm ugly, then I'm be like, how dare you? Or so that's the idea. So the idea around it is, if you think you're not good enough, it's because somewhere you have a vision of what good enough is and you're not there. And you might be, other people might think you're stellar, but for you, you know something within, and maybe you could be 10x, and maybe your 10x is 100x others, but for you, there is the gap. And that negative thought came in to alert your attention to that gap so that you go and heal it. So instead of replacing that thought with positive affirmation, you are good enough, telling yourself every day that, because you will believe it once you do that. But you rob yourself from the wisdom within of understanding, what is that thought trying to tell me? What do I know within that is creating the thoughts? And it creates a space where you can look and think instead of feel the negative. And from there, you can decode things for you, and you can see that the road is already traced. Your thoughts are showing you the way, what needs to be done for you to get to this place of good enough.
Thank you, Dr. Yasmine, for sharing that. I think so many people have experienced that kind of thinking, and very often we don't know how to deal with it. But today you've explained that, of how, if we have a negative thought, to really take some time and reflect on ourselves and go much deeper and really look at where is this coming from. And I think that's very important, because our education system hasn't taught us how to do that. And I think now we have to learn to heal ourselves by going deeper into, whenever that negative thought, that belief comes, questioning, asking where it is coming from. How is that helping me? What is it doing for me? I think I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I would like to ask you, what has been for you, Dr. Yasmine, the greatest experience in your life?
Oh, the greatest experience in my life has been, there's so many, but the first one that came was to find Qigong.
Okay.
So that was the greatest experience in my life. And Qigong is Qi means energy, Gong is movement. It's an energy movement that's at the base of traditional Chinese medicine.
Yes.
So it's the foundation of acupuncture, Tai Chi, martial arts. And so that was the greatest experience.
Wow. And what made you go to Qigong? Can
I
you
think
tell us more?
Yes, of course. I always think that life has bigger plans for you than you have for yourself. And usually you go into those modalities through some health challenges or some health issues.
Right.
So I already had my practice. I was an assistant professor at a university. I was working, 40 hours a week seeing patients. So I was very busy. And I had decided that it's time for me to start a family. And I was very happy, and I had a miscarriage. And the miscarriage had his own emotional piece. But what it also did, suddenly after the miscarriage, I started feeling everything. And so when I say everything, I would sit with the patient. If they had a headache, I would feel a headache.
Right.
If they felt tired, I would feel tired. So everywhere I went, everything I ate, I have sensation. And I couldn't understand it, went to Western medicine, did not help me, and walked in my acupuncturist office. And one of the people there gave me a DVD of Qigong and told me, try this. And I tried it, and I felt better. It healed me. I didn't feel anymore what I was feeling, or at least I had a buffer.
Yeah.
And so I was very surprised, very intrigued, and I decided that I'm going to dive right in and I'm going to study it. And I've been studying now for 11 of 12 years under a grandmaster of traditional Chinese medicine. I've been practicing Qigong. My practice now is all about blending ancient Eastern wisdom to cure modern Western problems. So it's become a way of life, a way of practice. I teach it. I create a movement of psychologists who are learning how to integrate Eastern medicine and concept from traditional Chinese medicine specifically. So, and the success of my approach reside in that, the inner message approach. The idea is that in one, everything resides. So in one thought, one emotion carries so much of your own blueprint. It's just coded. It's like dreams. It's exactly like a dream. So I help people decode their thoughts and their emotion so that they can connect to the essence of who they are and maximize their potential.
I think that's beautiful, that what you do is bringing together the Western and the Asian practices, because when we bring them together, they are much, much more effective on each one of us. Yes. And I think a lot of practitioners now are trying to bring that together. They've realized that only the Western practices are not enough, and we have to bring in the Asian practices. So definitely, I think what you are doing is an extraordinary work that will touch a lot of lives and will help a lot of people to heal from their challenges, from their traumas, from their pain, from their emotions, from their thoughts. So I think that's beautiful. So I've heard a lot about Qigong myself the past few years. And would you tell the audience a little bit more? Because Qigong, it's about working with our energy, with our hands, with our body. And can you tell the audience so that they know, because maybe they might not be very familiar about Qigong. So what is Qigong? And can you share with us a bit more about what it is and how does it help to shift our negative thoughts and emotions?
Absolutely. So there's different types of Qigong. Basically, for the lay people, what you see usually in the park is called Tai Chi. It's a series of movements. Most people confuse Qigong with Tai Chi.
Okay.
Qigong is an isolated movement. It can really look ridiculous. It can be a kick forward, a kick backward. You might be wondering, how is that ever going to help me? Or it can be a standing pause.
Okay.
The idea about Qigong, it's based on the idea that your body communicates with your environment. So now the question, how does it communicate? Like, how are you affected by season, for example? How people will say the light, but how, sometimes you feel more than the light. Your body knows, like people who have arthritis, their body knows that humidity is coming or there's a change of atmospheric pressure. How do our body know? So in traditional Chinese medicine, they believe that there are pathways that run through your body. So from an Indian perspective, there are chakra that you need to align. From a traditional Chinese medicine, there are energy pathways.
Yes.
That once they flow, you're well.
Yeah.
And so those pathways can be the equivalent of, for example, subway system. When a subway gets flooded, the streets get flooded.
Yes.
So that is the idea. And so what blocks our pathway? Well, thoughts that we have received from our parents unconsciously, unconscious patterns that we have received, and some that we have created ourselves, all unconsciously most of the time, blocks the pathway. So I'll give you an example. For example, if your mother doesn't like cold and you're born as a child, you intuitively pick up maybe that cold is dangerous. So you naturally pick that up. So now what happens the moment there's cold, your body will react a certain way, and then you have your own behavior, which are like maybe overdressing because now it's dangerous, and so overheating, and then actually getting a cold. So there's a lot of ways where your pathway get blocked. And so Qigong is through simple movements, simple stretches and movement, you open your body pathways. And once you do that, you feel better. Now, there's different types of Qigong. There's some that will use your breathing and your imagination. They will, for example, take the sun, bring it up, bring it down, back. The one I practice is called Wu Ming Qigong, which is meant to open your intuition, open your heart. Wu is intuition, Wu Ming, and mind. So it's using an intuitive mind, not a logical mind. So there's no focus on the breathing. There's no focus on, labeling things. There's just you enter a certain position and suddenly you're like an antenna. And there things starts pushing, and it's something you have to experience. What I tell people, unless you experience it, it sounds very esoteric, because I'm going to tell you, do this movement, you'll feel better, and you'll be like, how could this movement ever make me feel better? And then you're going to do it, and you're going to feel better, because the idea, it's going to open your body, realign it, and when your body is aligned and clear and free, your mind gets peaceful. Your mind let go. So there's such a connection between the body and mind that Qigong works at the 3 level: body, mind, and spirit. Spirit being the essence of who you are, the core of who you are. And like, the spirit of a person, usually, like if you remember them as a child, you remember maybe they were playful, maybe they were the one who were poking each other, or maybe they were the one who were asking questions all the time. Like the essence of a person, either a curious essence, a playful essence. People have essence. And so Qigong brings back the essence of who you are so that you can shine. So that's a bit on a short explanation of what Qigong is.
Dr. Yasmine, I would like to say a big thank you for explaining that. Today I am getting an even deeper understanding of what Qigong is, thanks to you. So I think the audience can go into do more research on their own and find out, because it's such a beautiful thing. Yes. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yes, of course. My pleasure.
And what has been for you, Dr. Yasmine? Who has been for you, sorry, the most influential person in your life and why?
I mean, that's going to be a cliche answer, but for sure, my mother. I
Okay.
always say your parents are an influence because there's a grandmaster, of course, I studied under. There's a lot of people, but my mother will always be the biggest influence. I think mothers play such a pivotal role in
Yeah.
who you are. And so for me, everything I am is a derivative of my mother, either by example or by contrary. Whatever I saw that she didn't work on, I made sure to work on. Whatever she worked on, I make sure to take on. So in some way, she has paved the way, continue to pave the way. There's such a wisdom that get passed on. And what I mean by that, I think for all of us, most people,
Yes.
when they hear me, think that my mother taught me. There's no teaching, there's more me observing, understanding,
Yeah.
and from there creating my life. So for me, my biggest influential person is my mother.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yasmine. And what would you say are the three qualities that you admire the most in your mother?
That's beautiful. Tenacity. My mother is very strong, very tenacious.
Okay.
She's been through a lot,
Mm.
and she's very strong and very tenacious. The other quality that I admire that sometimes get her in trouble, I like to call her, in traditional Chinese medicine, she's a tiger. So tigers, protect their tribe and can, growl. So she is very honest to a fault. So
Right.
she will tell you your faults and she in a way of helping you in a caring way. But she is very honest, very straightforward. So that's the second quality I admire. And what I love the most is that she's always helping people, and you might not be aware she's helping you. She
Okay.
always picks up the area that needs help, and she will naturally give it, whether it be support, advice, care, finance, whichever it is, but she'll figure it out. So I think my mother is actually a mother to many around her in that way.
Wow, that's beautiful. She's not only a mother to you, but to everybody who come across her. Yeah.
Yes. The moment she has somebody coming, people come to provide services to her, like if
Yeah.
she's a physical therapist, all that, she will
Okay.
counsel, she will give them what she sees they need. And it's pretty beautiful, and people
Yes.
get really attached to her.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you. And you got that too. You you got that from her too. That caring, that compassion. Yes, that wisdom. Thank you so much. And what quote, Dr. Yasmin, has helped you to cope in challenging times?
So I think I was born with a predisposition of always turning something bad into a good. I always had this, although I found Qigong only 10, 12 years ago, which is the yin and yang.
Yes.
I was always, I think, into this yin and yang. So in my life, I always said something bad, I have to actively turn it into good. And so I actively did that through thinking, through doing at all level. But whenever something came my way, I did turn it into a growth opportunity. So I think that was my biggest tool asset in life is this mindset of and the determination to turn everything into something positive in some way or something growth promoting for me.
Yes, definitely. Definitely it is. It is a great asset to have that and to be able to turn any challenging situation into and to transform it into something positive. Yeah. And what would you say today to encourage people who are listening and watching and who are facing some tough times? What would you like to tell them, Dr. Yasmine?
So what I would like to tell them is take a look at how you're thinking about what is happening, because in life, there's what happens, but the most important is how do we take what happens? And for some, you're going to be very quick to feel hopeless, helpless. And so notice this pattern of going to this place of helplessness and seeing, well, what can you do with it? Does it serve you to seek help afterwards if you're helpless to get more help? What can you do about it? Can you look the other way? Can you look at the support in some way? What can you do about that? Notice where your mind goes, because the adversity is not the challenge. The challenge is what your mind does with it. And once you discover what your mind does with it, you can rebalance yourself. You can have the key to overcoming that adversity. That's why my first stop is always decode your mind, decode what's happening in your head, because that carries clues about what you need to rebalance. That carries clues also what you need and what is serving you and what is an obstacle. So analyze all of that and then make the decision that's best suited for you.
Yes, that's great. Thank you. And when you were saying all that about the mind, it just reminded me of a book that I've been reading a few times, which is called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I'm sure you have encountered that. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And as we are talking about books, I would like to ask you, Dr. Yasmine, if you would share with us what book or books have impacted you the most and why.
Oh, so there are three books that I really, really, really like. Of course, I'm a psychologist. So for me, there's David Shapiro is a famous psychologist here in New York who wrote Psychotherapy of Neurotic Character. And his whole theory is that we all form a character based on thoughts pattern we have. And paying attention to our mental activity, what we do, what I just offer, leads you to understanding yourself. So I love his book on psychotherapy of neurotic character. The other book that I like a lot is, of course, Think and Grow Rich, because it really shows the power of the mind and what you think and what you create in reality. Very powerful. Yes. And the third one is The Hidden Life of Trees.
Okay.
And the reason why I like this book, because we very much work like nature, or should work like nature. And in this book, it shows you how trees actually all collaborate with each other, have a whole system in roots, and are all contributing with the weather, the environment, each other, supporting each other, alerting each other in a way that I think all human beings should operate. And we do, in some level, we do, in the sense that we all sense each other. We don't always tap into that power, and we don't always exert that. But so those three books are books that I love.
Thank you so much. I will definitely find the last one and the first one as well. I have heard of Dr. Shapiro. I think he's written some academic journals, so I've heard of his name, yes. And I will definitely look for this book myself. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And Dr. Yasmine, would you tell us finally the last question more about your business and how can people reach out to you?
I'll be happy to. Thank you for asking me. So I built a group practice in New York City that offer virtual sessions.
Okay.
My psychologists are handpicked and selected as the top 5% in the field of psychology nationally.
Okay.
And they're all trained to be a little bit more like coaches, because people perceive psychotherapy as maybe the passive therapist or the one who's going to tell you about, walk you through your childhood. But actually, my therapists, my psychologists are all trained in my inner message approach, which is with one thought, one emotion, we know so much. So we can help you solve the problems in your life and we can help you go deep. And each one specializes in their own modality. So what we do, because we believe the best thing is a tailor approach, people come to us, we have a free initial consultation, and we tell that person what we believe they need in terms of what type of treatment. Are we integrating some Eastern perspective or not? Are we integrating other Western things like medication or just doing therapy, and then which kind? We tell them what type of therapy would be best, then the personality of the therapist, and then we match them so that they start with a therapy experience that's the best for them. So that's about how we do it so that we can tailor it. So we have the quality of care, the tailor, and as you said in my bio, because a lot of people come because they know me. And I'm Lebanese. I grew up in Paris. I practice traditional Chinese medicine. I'm in US. I practice also in Spanish. So people come from multi-diverse culture, country, religion. So my therapists, tailor their treatment to cultural diversity, and my staff is extremely culturally diverse in their culture, their gender, their identification, their religion, and all other things. So that's how we are. And you can always Google me to find me anywhere, and then you'll find my group practice. But if you wanted to Google specifically the practice, it's called Madison Park Psychological Services. And the beauty about it has been, I formed this practice about 12 years ago. So I was really a pioneer back then. There was no group practices, and especially no one doing Eastern. So we've been around for a while. We have great people. So most people are really happy with the system we have in place.
Wow, that's wonderful. And are the services that you provide, are they online or face-to-face?
They're online. Right now we have decided to keep everything online because it's more practical and we can serve a bigger audience.
That's beautiful. And also you said that you tailor the practices according to the person, and I think that's very important because some people respond better to certain practices depending on their need and depending on their issues and depending on the individual as well. So I think that's very important, and I think you are doing a great thing with your practice, with your team, and I would say a big thank you to you for coming today, and I wish you and your team a lot of success and a very bright future moving ahead. Dr. Yasmine.
Thank you so much. And I wish you the same with all your practice, this show. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yasmine. And it's been a real pleasure talking to you, listening to you, to your wisdom, to your knowledge. Thank you so much. And I would say a big thank you to the audience for listening, for watching, for sharing, and for subscribing. Thank you again, Dr. Yasmine, and thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye.